Hello, I am Austin Peterson, and this is my class project for CSE335. My plan with this project was to create a road trip planner. The purpose of this application would be to assist a user in designing a road trip route using user-defined locations. The app will allow the user to save custom road trip locations in core data and generate routes from them. My goal was to create a simple road trip app that would have some built-in functions that I would enjoy if I were to use a road trip app. This is the UI walkthrough, with one being the main view. This view contains the map, which displays the user location and existing sites. The annotations for the sites provide data such as name, description, and temperature when clicked on by the user. Users can navigate to all the other views from this one. At 2, we have the Add Site view. This is where the user enters information about a new site, and this is where it's stored into core data. Name, description, image, and location are all given by the user, which will then be used to generate a new site object. The location is given in plain English and is geocoded to determine the location. At 3, we have the New Route view. This displays all the existing sites that the user has entered and allows the user to select a series of them in order to be returned to create a route on the map. The user can cancel the route if they decide to stick to an existing route already on the map. On the About page, there isn't much. This view is rather simple and just details the use of the application in a concise manner. Users flip through informational slides with a button and then can leave when they're satisfied. This is my class diagram for the program. As you can see, the majority of the classes are inherit from different delegates. This is so that the app can run all of the parts that I needed to run in order to display the information to the user. The site class is an NS managed object and is saved in core data. This is fetched by all the other views in order for you to use. So at Add View Controller, you can see that we have touches begin, which is what hides the keyboard when the user is done typing. We have View Did Load, which just sets the background color, as there isn't much in Add View Controller. Image Picker selects the image that the user selects in order to attach to the site. And the Choose Image button is the part that uses this. In the View Controller, the main View Controller, this is used in View Did Load. The Color and Location Manager are turned on, and it wipes any existing overlay animations only when new information is included. So if View Did Load is not called, the existing route will stay on the map. The Generate Map function, which I wrote and is in red, it creates the annotations and calls the API information for the overlays for annotations. This happens no matter what and is called in View Did Load. The Generate Route button, the Generate Route function uses the selected sites from the new Route View Controller in order to generate an overlay on the map using Google APIs. The Unwind in this specific class grabs the site list from the new Route View Controller for determining which one should be included in the route. In new Route Controller, the table view is, there's obviously a table view as many of the delegate methods that exist in this class. The table view method that returns an int calls fetch record in order to get the sites from core data, and the did select row at checks the user rows and fetches the associated site to be added to the return array that continues back to the main view for the overlays. In site, it's a quite simple object class for core data. It has fetch request, which is common, and it has the attributes of name, description, picture, and then latitude and longitude. I saved the latitude and longitude in case I want to implement further design features that would allow me to use this for API calls. This is the model view controller for my project, and what we have here is at the controller, it handles the core data and requests and sends it to the views. It handles fetching data, which I covered. It interfaces with the API calls for the weather and for the route information. It handles saving data to the core data. It modifies the view to reflect errors and information. And so you can see in the model or core data, it stores the existing sites and provides data for the controller to send to the view. The notifications that the core data sends to the controller as the location information changes, as the user location is updated by delegate methods. The updates that the controller sends to the model and core data is to add existing sites to the data model, as well as delete or edit the existing sites. You can also create a new route, although this is not stored in core data. In the view reacts to user taps and interactions. It displays any existing sites on the map. It displays the GUI for user interaction, and it displays views for addition of sites to the map. It displays details of the individual sites to the map and shows the view for a new route request. The updates the controller sends to the view is the outputs, such as the text labels, the map, the table views, everything that the user can look at. And for the user actions, the user can press buttons, navigate, and interact with the table and map view, as well as enter information in order to interact with the controller. I'm going to talk about the limitations in my application, these specific ones. So starting off, let's go with add. Given time, I was going to implement the choice of latitude and longitude inputs for site location, as it'd be a little bit more accurate with my geocoding. And more attributes would definitely help with site classification. For instance, you could add more information about the sites, like whether you want to travel there or not, who you want to go with, and when you want to, in order to create more data for us to process. In one, I think that the map doesn't have built-in buttons that you typically see with map GUIs, such as zoom in and out and refocus on the user. I do have a segmented control to center. As long as it's selected free, the user can move around the map all they want, but if it's selected on center, it will train on the user's location no matter what, so that's halfway there. I didn't have time to create an auto-aiming feature to coincide with the user direction, as there are on a lot of routes where the map view pivots in order to point in the user's direction. And it would be nice to have a table view or a second view controller to select pre-existing routes that would probably be stored in core data. On 3, the new route view controller, when the list gets too long, the search function or maybe an alphabetization could help the user navigate all their sites, and maybe an extra view controller to display data of the sites they select in order to help the user remember. So here's the capabilities and limitations in a broad spectrum. For dependencies, I do use an API that relies heavily on geocoding, and there's a chance for this to fail because it's English geocoding, and this, due to user error or typos, it might not return the correct results. Smoothness, the UI is clunky, and I don't think I gave enough time to generate a UI that worked a little better. And the loading for web calls and images isn't optimized or multi-threaded. I didn't utilize this sort of thing with web calls, which is common, and I probably would do in the future. Fluidity, there's no user-to-user interaction, which is difficult to implement with just core data. And also there's no user identity, so the user doesn't log in, the core data is not transferable, and you can't really use this information on other devices. For storage, there's minimal data storage. I could have done a lot more to save attributes if I wanted to make my data structures bigger. I could save existing routes in core data. I could save user stats like their speed, the sites they visited, a progress in a specific route. There's a lot I could do that I didn't really implement that would be interesting in the future. In terms of takeaways, planning the code structure. So normally on projects, I don't have this sort of planning involved, and it's definitely highlighted the importance of creating proper class diagrams and creating a structure that allow you to fill it in without any sorts of issues along the way. This is a better approach than I would normally take. Also, MVC implementation. I tend to try to implement this in every class I'm in now that I know about it. It's definitely one of my favorite ways to think about coding, and it helps me understand and visualize the structures I'm using. The importance of proper GUIs. I did not give myself enough time to generate one, and as a result, mine isn't the prettiest. I think given more time, my project would be a lot more impressive. I just cut myself off. Also, the importance of a solid base and view structure. I didn't realize how important it was to do all of the necessary boilerplate coding in order to generate a structure that I could fill in and that would work over time. That was very important to this. So thoughts on improvement in the project, more specific inherited data types and classes and sites. I could definitely generate more stuff and learn more about the user. Probably more planning in regards to APIs. Mine uses geocoding, but it would be nice to implement some latitude and longitude information from the user if I wanted to get very accurate API information. And better class separation implementation. I did have some functionalities in the view controller classes that probably be better left to a separate class, and I could package the functionalities that the map uses a little bit better if I had extra classes, but I kind of didn't have the foresight to refactor those classes. My thoughts on improvement in the class is that better spacing between quizzes and assignments. During the beginning it was mostly great, but at the end the quizzes were a little close together and so were the assignments. I don't like less in-class exercises, but that might just be personal. More in-class coding and examples and tracing. We do trace a lot of examples and power up simulators, but it would be nice to write some in class to see how it functions straight from the beginning. And then a little more Phase 3 guidance. We did have this video, which was good, but I'm sure that I could be missing stuff. This was my project. Thank you. Have a good break.